Hey guys, it's Red Shadow and welcome back to another recent gaming video. And proud to say that this is the probably shortest amount of time between a couple of recent gaming videos as I've had. This is actually 3 games in a row within just the last week, I think. Of course, it's cheatsy a little bit because one was a game that was about a half an hour long, and the other two, Dead Island Riptide and the one in this video, Far Cry 3, were games that I was already halfway through or more when I stopped playing them. You know, Dead Island 3 was like, well, they were both 2013 were when I think put my most amount of time into. Far Cry 3 may have even been 2012. Although I did play some Far Cry 3 last summer, briefly, just because I was getting excited and I was anticipating Far Cry 4. So, anyway, today I started to do something that I mentioned, I think I've mentioned in some video, which was that I was going to go and take all of my 360 games, and all of my PS3 games, and pop them into the consoles and do any of the updating or whatever that needed to be done for each game. And I got like 5 or 6 games in, and I was like, God, this is so tedious and boring to load it in and do it. And after the first 4 or 5 games, I only had one that did an update. So I just kind of pooped out of it, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to throw Far Cry 3 in. I wanted to buy some DLC because I've got some Microsoft money now instead of points, and I think I've got a couple months in which to use what I have in there. It's going to go away, so I decided I'd spend $10 of what I had on one gamer tag and buy some DLC for Far Cry 3, and that just led me, it was like one thing leads to another, and I was playing the game, and I liberated a few outposts, took down a couple radio towers, decided to jump in and do a couple of missions, and didn't realize that there would literally be so few missions to do to actually finish the game off. And so that's what I did. Now, the one thing that comes to mind in completing Far Cry 3 tonight was that second island, fucking frustrating. I mean, the level of difficulty, in my opinion, from the first island against the pirates and Voss, and all the story and elements and stuff that come out, I usually play on easier difficulty settings. I discovered that it was set on medium, which I guess is like normal, after I'd been playing it for a while. But the first island just felt, the term I want to use is accessible, which basically means easy. Except for, well, there was a few things, including that last battle against Voss, the drug-induced craziness of that last battle really pissed me off. And then when I went to the second island and saw how much more difficult it felt to me, I was really put off. But, well, that was why I stopped playing the game a while back. I had no real other reason to. Dead Island Riptide was because Last of Us came out. And Last of Us went to Beyond Two Souls and GTA 5, and I got distracted away from it for a long time. This one, it was just because I was so cheesed off that it was so... The increase in difficulty was so excessive, in my opinion. For someone like me, for hardcore gamers, it's probably the kind of thing that they're wanting. It's probably the kind of difficulty increase that they would want to keep the game challenging, to keep them into it. But to me, when it gets harder, the longer you're with a game, the more I get like totally out of the mood for that game. So, and it, like I said, it took a couple of years for me to sit back down with it. And then, as happens so often with me, I get to a part that's tough in a game, and then I come back a couple of years later, like literally a few years later, and I'm able to surpass it. Now, as far as the game as a whole goes, it's the story of Jason Brody and this group of his similarly aged, like early 20 somethings, white, privileged, wealthy, and well to do kids who go to. I mean, it's not like it's enough for them to just go out on the town. These guys have got to go parachuting out of airplanes over tropical islands that just happen to be an island where pirates and bad people are. And they get into a world of shit. And Jason Brody, the character that you play as, has to save all of his friends, discover what's going on this island. He starts to get involved in things. He meets some of the island natives who are, compatriots, in this in their task. They have the common enemy, so they become allies. And I remember thinking to myself, I like the story. I like that these cocky kids get into something way over their heads, and one of them has to take charge. One of them has to go out there and do what he can. But he starts to change, which also is something that I like. It's not a bad thing. I liked that he started to change. He started to relate. He started to become empowered. He started to find himself, whatever that means in general or in terms of this game. I liked the character development of how he suddenly started to kind of feel like his place was here. He could rise above the nothing life that he basically had as being a spoiled rich kid. The only thing that I didn't like was the ending. So spoilers, if you haven't finished this game or you haven't played this game and you want to check it out. As far as the story goes, the ending decision didn't do much for me. Okay, first I want to touch on the boss battle, the final boss battle against Hoyt, the true, evil villain of this game in this world. It's a quick time battle, essentially. And I don't really have a problem with that. I remember just recently watching something on YouTube where somebody was complaining about that. And I'm thinking, you know what? Long gone are the days of the final boss being like the culmination of all the things that you've learned as you've progressed through the game. Nowadays, it has to be something a little bit more where storyline plays out for it. And in this case, you're talking to Hoyt, and you're going back and forth, and you do this thing, and you're stabbing each other. If you don't click the right things, and you get stabbed and killed, and you have to start over. There's where my problem was. Even though the sequences were relatively short, you didn't have to memorize a lot. If you one misclick at any point during that, and you get killed. And then you have to sit through a loading screen to go back to 12 seconds prior. I don't understand why it couldn't have just went to dark, did its thing, it went right back into it. No loading screen. That was infuriating. I have moments with some of my games where I am just screaming and yelling at the TV and just getting mad at everything. And that was one of those moments where I was starting to boil over a little bit. It just shouldn't have to make you go through a loading screen for every one of those. Anyway, you finish it, you kill him. Obviously, you're going to kill him. And then you have to make your way out with your younger brother. I think that's the sequence in which it happened. Yeah, I know that, yeah. And then you fly off and you fly someplace and your friends are not there. And then you fly off again to another place, to a temple where you meet. Well, you don't meet for the first time, but you meet up with basically the island's spiritual leader. Not the bad guys, not the evil terrorists, drug smuggling, evil villain guys, but the actual leader of the island, a lady named Citra, who your character has already had a little bit of an intimate relationship with. and who, in my eyes, I actually was drawn to her. I liked her. I liked her cause, and I liked the Jason Brody and her thing, which was something that I thought was going to happen in the game. And at the end, you get that choice. You can save your friends, or you can join Citra. And I thought to myself, and I guess I shouldn't have allowed myself to not, think outside the box. I already knew that there was like this crazy moral choice. It's all over all these different websites that I go to for gaming, and a lot of people were calling out this choice at the end of the game. And I thought the choice was basically go with your friends and leave the island, or stay there and take this position that you've kind of inserted yourself into, and they leave. No. You choose to stay with her, with Citra, which is what I chose. You freaking slice the neck of your girlfriend and kill her. I was like, I don't understand where that came from, but whatever. I didn't check to see what the other ending was like if you leave, but just it was just the way that the game played it all out. I really felt like my character was drawn to more and belonged with Citra, and not with his friends and his girlfriend. But I guess, I don't know, right after I sliced her throat, I was just like, oh, okay, well, all right, I guess I should have seen that coming. But it was still kind of bullshit. Now, at the point in the game where I am, I can go back and continue to mess around on the island. One of my favorite things in video games is when the game is done, the final villain is dispatched, the credits have rolled, you get to go back into the game world and finish off things. In a game like this, okay, I didn't mention before, but Far Cry 3 is like a big, massive open world game, all done in first person. So it's a first person shooter, but there's stealth, there's melee, there's fighting, there's the storyline and all that kind of stuff. It's sort of like Skyrim in a modern day setting. I don't know, it's just, I really, really like it, although after coming off the computer with the keyboard and mouse, I was really cursing at my controller for being so clumsy and just, slow and awkward. But anyway, Far Cry 3, really, really loved it. It really was a great game. I'm looking forward to getting back into Far Cry 4 now, knowing that I don't have the predecessor hanging over me. I need to play Far Cry Blood Dragon, which I have, but I haven't finished. I need to play a lot of games and do a lot of stuff, but it was just really nice to, for the second time this month, knock off a game that had been in the backlog as, halfway finished for a couple of years now. I don't know what I will play next and go fully into and finish it off. But whatever it is, I'm looking forward to it. I'm just so happy I completed 3 games in February. And yet I have a game that I started in November that I haven't went back to. Or not started in November, but stopped playing in November when I was this close to being done. I need to knock that one out as well. Maybe tomorrow or the next day. Maybe I'll get it knocked out before February is over. It'd be pretty cool. But anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble. I hope you enjoyed it. Far Cry 3 is an awesome game. Check it out, and I'll see you next time.